Today, we are going to be basically justifying this statement of before you buy another lead database, don't make the 100K mistake. What I see a lot of people are doing in the AI era is just build a huge list, throw it in, hope AI will figure out what's most important and shoot it out. When you focus on buying signals first, you are answering a very simple question. Why me? Why now? Someone receives it, why me, why now? They're seeing it pretty clearly. It does work tremendously.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. And we are back with a new topic, new webinar. But this time, again, we have Kevin with us. Last webinar was super cool, Kevin. I got a very good response by the audience. All the answers, the Q&A and everything was so good. I even got a lot of DMs after asking about, the things we discussed about the King method, personalization, and a couple of guys actually used that. And they were actually telling me like that worked really good. So yeah, kudos to you. And thanks for joining today, Kevin. So how's it feeling today?
Thank you, Pritesh, and the whole Saleshandy team for having me again. It's always a pleasure. And I'm really glad that the last webinar, as you say, went well. I also actually started getting quite a few messages on LinkedIn as well. So I'm really glad that it landed well and it helped people. And obviously super excited to be here.
Wow. That's pretty cool. So we're gonna be just starting this session and I'll be just handing it over to Kevin. Yeah. So over to you, Kevin. Let's start.
Thank you, Pritesh. Very kind. Thank you so much. So everyone will be able to see this shortly. Great. Okay. Perfect. So Pritesh, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Today we are going to be basically justifying this statement of before you buy another lead database, don't make the 100K mistake me and my team have done. And I'm not alone. I know a lot of people in the GTM space have got this problem. So when Pritesh reached out and said, hey, I think this could be really valuable to our community, said, yeah, absolutely happy to share. Happy to reminisce on the sad aspect of losing money, and hopefully can save money and time to all of you who are joining today. So let's get straight into it. I am Kevin Patrick. For those of you who don't know me, I am a co-founder of a leading GTM firm called Asterisk Partners. We're actually a US registered entity. We've supported over 75 B2B companies. We're actually now a team of 10 that focus purely on strategic outreach. So have been in the space in terms of GTM outbound, building sales teams for well over 10 years actually. But have got through just nature of my role and what I do, get to see all the latest platforms, GTM tools, but specifically today's conversation of pretty much every major lead database I'm aware of, or at least have tried it and seen. So I puts me hopefully in a very good position to be able to give you my real feedback and advice, and hopefully guide you in the right direction. So let's start with a good old confession. And that is the whole topic of today's conversation around spending too much money, but two things, money and time, on good tools. And as it says here, it's never a single bad purchase, right? Especially in 2026, I think with the tools that are available, with the different monthly options, there's a lot of flexibility. But when you think about the time that you lose as part of that process, and when you're thinking of stitching lots of different tools and things, and you'll see more of this as we go through it adds up. And actually, I would say 100K is probably quite conservative. Over the times, it's probably a lot more. So really, that's where this whole conversation starts, is realizing that actually there is a problem. It's a problem that not only am I facing, not only other people in the outbound space facing, but I know companies, business owners like yourselves will probably face as well. So hopefully the errors and issues that we've done and I've been through can hopefully resolve some and hopefully stop you in your tracks and say, hey, here are maybe some better options. So how have I lost 100K, right? Or what are we looking at? And again, trying to keep today's conversation very much focused on the database, on the actual data. It's really about when you do when you set up an outreach campaign, it's very easy to just think, oh, it's not enough data. I'll just buy more data. I'll just throw lots more data in. And whilst today is not a deliverability webinar or topic around deliverability, we know that just it doesn't work. That's why it's really important to not just look at just purely on the volume basis, but actually want to look at the rates. That's why we have percentages, and that's why we say look at those numbers. It's way more crucial. And that's number one. Early days when you don't have that experience, you're like, screw it, I'll just throw in another batch of data and see what happens, right? Number two, then it's very you don't look at anything else. You're sort of thinking, oh, it must be the data is the problem, the data vendor, the data provider. So all of us, I'm sure, have used Apollo or ZoomInfo or Seamless or Lusher. I have. I know all of them, like the back of my hands, and have used all of them. And the thing is, initially it feels like things are okay, but then you end up getting the same results. And we'll go into the reason why that is, that this is just beyond just around data period. There's a lot more the psychology behind it, which I'll run you through. And then number three, this importance of verifying the data, right? I'm hoping everyone on this call will know this, but if not, please never ever take data at its face value unless it is genuinely verified. And again, very excited to show you what obviously Saleshandy have created to solve this, but it is a major problem. You having to, I remember we actually internally did a test with the likes of Apollo and ZoomInfo, and we found that when you take any database and you try to get the verified data, look at the verified data, you're looking at about 18 to 23%. So imagine if you've got a TAM of 1,000 or 10,000, and sorry, TAM, total addressable market, 1,000 or 10,000. If you're only getting 18 to 23%, like what's the point? It's very, very, very challenging. So the verification is very important, but to do it separately, multiple tools, multiple issues, etc. Once you solve all of that, and if you're still not getting either good reply rate or good number of meetings, etc., you've got to ask yourself, the data actually is probably okay as long as the deliverability checks and all that, but I was emailing or I was contacting people with zero reason to talk to me. And that is also a cost. That is also a time. I'm sure you've heard this hundreds of times, but especially in 2026, we are out of the spray and pray era. It just doesn't work anymore. You can't just blast it for multiple reasons. And hopefully today, you're going to get a better idea behind how this is all going to work. So I just want to give you a real life example of how this approach works when you actually get better quality thinking around the data. And there's something I want everyone to be aware of this, and I very much live by this, and this is what we do at Asterisk. Yes, personalizing messaging is important, right? We know it, and in fact, last webinar was a little bit about that in terms of the Kingmaker personalization method, etc. But before you even get to that stage, if you can focus on personalizing your list, if you can take some time and think, hey, how can I personalize my list? How can I segment my list? How can I build out this list so it's a list of really focused people? You will find that your message actually writes itself for that particular cohort. What I see a lot of people are doing in the AI era is we'll just build a huge list, throw it in, hope AI will figure out what's most important and shoot it out. I don't recommend that. So just bear that in mind. Personalize your list, then the message will write itself. Okay. So let's take two examples here. 5,000 contacts per company that are filtered by the very basics of title, industry, location. We are verifying externally using another tool, and then we're bringing, or maybe then moving it back into another sequence or whatever. So that whole process, imagine if let's say I'm using Apollo, say ZoomInfo, maybe I'm using something like Bounce Span, and then putting it into Clay for enrichment, and then I'm bringing it back into Saleshandy to actually send it. That I mean, 5 tools. I know it's way more than that, but imagine those 5 tools. Think about the time, think about the cost, and when you look at the results that you get from it, 3.2% reply rate, you get 12 meetings. You may look at that and think, I'm happy with that. That's fine. But let's just think about this when we look at the quality, when you look from a signal point of view. And I'll go into what I mean by signals in a second, but 400 to 600 contacts per campaign. So what's that, like 10? It's 10% or 10 times. Sorry, smaller list. But the focus, you see, the filtered not by title, industry, location. Obviously, you would we're going to do that, and that will be part of your fit, and you'll see that. But I'm actually looking at what is happening inside an organization right now that is going to suggest that they are going to have a need for my offer. And then that's what we mean by buying signals. Then we're going to verify it in real time before send. So that, imagine that's all happening in one place without having to go back and forth. The time, any technical difficulty you have, it's all in one place, one platform, end to end. Reply rate 3 to 4 times more, and nearly 2 times more meetings. That is where everyone needs to be thinking about. It's no longer a case of especially in what I call this as like buying signals or like a sniper campaign. There's a particular reason you're coming back to people. And this goes back to that last slide. I was emailing people with zero reason to talk to me. When you focus on buying signals first, you are answering a very simple question. Why me? Why now? Someone receives it. Why me? Why now? They're seeing it pretty clearly. And that is the beauty. And that is the sort of results you can expect. It does work tremendously. So let's have a look very quickly. What has changed? What has changed between the then and now, or then and after? We've gone from more leads equal more meetings to right leads equal more meetings. Coming back to that why me, why now, emailing someone, and there's a reason why we contacted them. We move away from switching tools. We're moving away from blaming externally and saying everything else is the fault, versus when you start to look internally, and therefore you're fixing your filters. You're trying to think about things differently in that way. That's very, very important. Verification after you export, and I know this happens, is that you think it's the effort of having to verify, an effort of, oh, shall I do it? Maybe I can play around, or I just take something at face value. The rule is that you're never going to ever touch an unverified lead ever again. And you'll see why with what Saleshandy have built. Target by title and industry, no more. That's part of it. That makes part of the fit. But you're actually targeting, and you're really putting priority to buying signal first. And measure by volume. We're no longer going to say, hey, this is now booking 5 meetings based on, or 12 meetings based on 5,000 emails sent. Whereas you're going to be looking at, hey, how many meetings on average are we getting per 100 leads? And say 100 leads is a positive reply, or someone is coming back to you, because that's really what matters. And that's where you can start to identify, okay, is the message resonating, or do I need to optimize to get them back? And that's where we start to think more granular in that overall approach. So, if you were at the last webinar, something that's very important to us when we're delivering these webinars, we want to make sure that you walk away with real practical frameworks. We don't want to just give you the theory. We're going to give you a real practical a framework, hopefully something that's easy to understand. So when you think about lead quality, and going back to what I said earlier, like personalizing your list, we need to think about 3 things: signal, timing, and fit. What people normally will be doing is they'll just be thinking about fit. They don't think about signal and timing, which is what we're adding into this whole process. So let's dive a bit deeper into this. So let's think about signal. Most people filter by who someone is. What I'm doing, and what top firms are doing, and people in the space are doing, they're filtered by what they're doing, what's happening to them, what's happening in the organization, what is what changes are happening in the business to suggest that there's going to be a need for what you're offering. That's what makes this really, really important as a signal. So here are some examples. Which, your recent funding round, what does that mean? They've raised, they've got money. That means they're usually going to have pressure to, say, generate more revenue to hit goals, but they've got more, depending on why they've raised money. That's easy. That's information you could potentially research into as well, and see if they're looking to put a chunk of their investment into certain aspects that you may be able to help with. Rapid hiring in key departments. Hey, what more indication? Lots more people coming in. Maybe you've got some sort of HR tool solution or something around sort of onboarding. Do you understand what I mean? There's just so many. When you start looking at this in detail, you start to think, okay, I'm starting to now speak to people based on what's actually happening. And I can assure you, a lot of people who are doing outbound are not thinking like this. I can assure you, I see so many people that don't think like this. The other one I'm going to just spend 30 seconds on: leadership changes. This is coming from us who run, we're sending millions of emails, we're running thousands of campaigns. leadership change, when you target a new leadership hire in the first 90 days, the likelihood of them actually wanting to not only take the call if the offer is good and that the offer positioning is good, but actually then to actually convert into a business. And again, there's so many factors depending on the offer and the complexity, etc. But you'll see it's so much higher than any of the other signals, and that's why, in fact, for 9 out of 10 for any of our clients, we will always run a leadership change campaign, because we just see that leadership are coming in. They want to make their mark in the first 90 days, and it's a really, really, really good time to do something for them. So I want you to really think about signals in this way. And if you're wondering, well, I don't know what works for me, there's a couple of options for you. One, we can use AI. You can brainstorm with AI. It will give you some options and things back. But number two, just look at your last 5 customers, or 2, 3, 4, but 5 customers, and just ask yourself, why did they work with me? What was happening? Even if it was a referral or inbound, what was happening in that business to make them think, okay, this offer, this solution, this product is going to be good for me? And that is most likely going to be a very, very strong signal. So again, you've got the AI route, but also reflect on your recent customers or your best customers as well. So that's number one, all around signals. Then timing. Timing is so crucial. I can't remember what it was. I was recently speaking to someone, and they said, they said something like, they obviously knew they were in the space, and they knew around sort of signals and so on. But then when this question of timeline came up, they're like, oh yeah, we're targeting anyone who's had this in the last 3 years. And I was like, last 3 years? Like, do you realize the impact that, and this is the problem. This is why timing is so crucial. You're telling me you're putting someone that's an event. Okay, let me give you an example. Funding. You're telling me that you are using the exact same approach as someone who raised funding 28 days ago as to someone who did it 400 days ago. Do you see how crazy that is? And this visual representation, on my screen here is to tell you that the timing is so crucial. And that's why, making sure that you are able to go into sort of a motion of understanding, okay, gold, the last 30 days, things have happened in the business, and they are actively or higher probability of looking for what you may be able to offer. So, and it might be that, I'm not saying you'll have to, for example, if you're segmenting, you have to change your messaging completely, but that gold is gold for a reason. And that's where your priority, your focus, and depending on how you're running your outbound, if, for example, you're doing email and maybe calls and LinkedIn, it might be that actually you do the multi-approach sequence to your gold, and then you can do warm and calling and cold according to this screen. You can just do it as follow-up and sequences, etc. You know what I mean? Like, you need to really start thinking about signals is the right step in the right direction, but timing is equally very, very important as well. And it says there, VP of sales at a company that raised 6 months ago, they've already made the decision 3 weeks ago. You know what I mean? They're but if they've done, they've already made it, but if they've done it in 3 weeks ago, they're still building. Goes back to the same analogy as I was saying with the 28 days and 400 days. Like, a lot of this is common sense, but timing is so crucial. So please think about this when you're building your lists. And then the final piece, coming back to fit, as I said at the start of this STF signal time fit, is most people would just think about fit. Yes, we're targeting VP of sales of tech companies, and they've got to have got to be between 100 and 1,000 people. That's it, and that's where you get, in this example, of those 200,000 title, industry, and company size. But then when you bring in signal, when you bring in timing, and you layer it on, that 2,000, that is your real ICP, and that could be based on the specific offer for what you're building. And you may have different ICPs for different offers, or slightly different ICPs for different messages and offers. But this is how you have to think about it. So next time you build your list, I want you to ask yourself, go through this exercise. What are the signals? Is the timing right? And confirming again that is your fit as well. So STF is a very powerful framework. Works beautifully. It takes if you've never done anything like this, it does take a little bit of time to get used to it. And if you're used to someone who's just been blasting to, in this case, 200,000 people, and you're not happy with your results, I assure you taking this approach will definitely give you different and I'm sure more encouraging results as well. So just want to talk about some mistakes that I see all the time, where around, again, a lot of the things that we've already said, this is just to back it up and just to really make sure it's cemented. First of all, around this idea of sort of spray and pray. And if you just look at the two numbers there, do you want to contact 5,000 people and get 3 meetings, or do you want to contact 500 people and get 18 meetings? That is literally the difference you can experience. You see the improvements all along the lines of opens, of replies, of meetings. And that way, when you start to think along these lines, you start to realize that actually there's no more a way that you can sort of position this as, I didn't have enough data, or I didn't do this or do that. You need to think more strategically about it. So need to move away from this volume trap idea. I'm not saying there's no place for it, but I think for those who haven't cracked their message market fit, or I think you need to really think about, because the signal first ones are going to be the low hanging fruit, and those ones you're going to see where the conversions are going to happen a lot quicker as well. So think about that, please. Now, this is so crucial. It's so crucial because it is the hidden multi-tool tax. Imagine, I gave you an example before, right? So let's say we're using Apollo, we're exporting, so you're paying for Apollo. Maybe you've got, you probably get some credits as part of that. It's part of that subscription. But just think about, even if you take the Apollo example, imagine if I'm talking about 80 to 23%, you're missing out so much of your TAM. So you're probably, I'm assuming, if not, you're probably then using another database, which is costing you money and exporting from there as well. So a database is not, the tool is just one aspect. You may be using multiple, you maybe do whatever. So let's say, let's just take for example here, you do a database here, Apollo, so whatever you're paying, depending on the you're going to have limitations on the amount that you're going to do based on your credits. You might even end up spending more to export. Then you're putting into another tool to verify, like Bounce Ban or Bouncer or whatever you're using. Then you are, and then all of this, imagine the time that goes in between all of this. Then you're waiting for that to happen. And then now you're taking your verified lead list into, and then putting it into Clay or Persona or whatever to enrich. That's costing you time. Then you're gonna clean it up afterwards, which is gonna cost you time, and time equals money, ladies and gentlemen. I know we know this, but we are there is when you're going from tool to tool. It's like, I don't know about you, but when I go from tool to tool, I'm like, I've got to think about how this tool, where are things, etc. Even though we use it daily, it's just our brains are going through so many different tools. But if we can make that simpler, you're gonna be much more effective. And then you're uploading it and moving into a sequencing. So if you take this example here, based on time and all the tools you're paying for, $40 to $70 per qualified lead before a single email goes out. That is the hidden multiple tool tax. So that's so crucial and important. So I really want, if anything, I want you to really think about it, because I speak to so many people and they don't consider this at all. And I'm telling you, it is a serious problem, and it's something you need to be very, very much aware of. Then mistake number 3, and this is something that I'm sure a lot of you will be aware of, but hopefully this will really clarify and verify it, is that one of the major reasons. Oh, sorry, I see a question. Okay. In B2B comedy marketing, what is your opinion on data collect from sales, and how many people should I collect from each company, because they're all decision makers? So Mustafa, I think data collected from Sales Navigator can work. You can collect the data, but then you'll obviously still have to enrich and find email addresses and go through that whole process. What I'm going to show you in probably in the next 5 minutes, hopefully is going to answer a lot of these questions in terms of what Saleshandy have created or what they've upgraded and have done an incredible job. So I think that first piece around Sales Navigator, you probably won't even have to worry about anymore, just because of what Saleshandy have created. And in terms of how many people should I collect from, considering they're all decision makers, now that's obviously a slightly more complex question regarding size of the organization. What my point of view on this, if you take the same concept, right, of the signal, time, fit, and assuming you're doing persona based messaging, I actually don't care how many people you're targeting in the same in each company, assuming that they are relevant, that the messaging you're creating for them is tailored to that each persona. Obviously, if you are saying I'm just going to take a list of all the different and blast the same message, then I'd say, you know, you shouldn't be doing that. That's not good advice. But I think if you are doing signal, timing, and fit, and then you're also obviously going through the process of verification, and then you're doing persona based messaging, you know, typically, even at larger organizations, you're probably going to hit 5, 7, 10 people at max, but assuming they're relevant and they're getting tailored messaging based on the offer and why it's going to be important to them. So that's how I would think about it. So thank you for that question. So in terms of mistake number 3, please realize that at any given time, you're in the market, there's only, especially in B2B, it's only about 3 to 5% of people who are like actively looking for what you're doing, which means the majority of people are not in the market. Hence why the signal-based campaigns are so crucial. The signal-based campaigns is where we are estimating and taking a very calculated estimate that actually these people that we're reaching out to are having a problem because of XYZ, and therefore are going to be a high chance of being in market. And because I'm being proactive and understanding this and speaking to them, they're actually going to be much more impressed and respectful, and therefore set our relationship on a really in a really good tone. In the 95%, not to say we need to exclude them, because you can still bring them into your ecosystem using outreach, and you can bring them in, maybe have a conversation, find out if they could be a good fit, and then you put them into some sort of nurture sequence. And when the time is right, they then think of you, and then you generate revenue and you generate opportunities with them as well. But the problem is, if you look at the 100% of your market, is that everyone's ready for either thinking everyone is ready to buy from me. The reality is that is not the case, and this is again what really drives the signal-based outreach as well. So, really want you to take away and think about that as well, please. So, how to build a list that converts? A reminder: research and look at your signals before your audience. You want to layer timing. Last 30 days is gold. Then you want to narrow to your ICP and make sure that all fits. You want to make sure that you verify before you commit, say, a credit in whatever way. And then going forward, measuring meetings per lead or 100 leads, and not so much about email sent. That is the only way that you are going to move away from this volume trap to instead thinking around more of around quality, and thinking about these are people that are going to be a good fit, or a high chance of being a good fit for what we're offering. So again, hope that helps, and hope that has created some form of sort of thought process when it comes to building quality lists, and comes back to that original point of personalize your list and the message will write itself sort of concept.
So this framework, Kevin, makes everything so, entire time so irrelevant. Like I've seen people, having big TAMs like 100K, 200K, 300K people in the list. And at the end of the day, like only 1 or 2% of people that matter the most, right? And this thing clearly makes it very clear. Like volume is no more the game, and TAM is not the thing. It's just size. So picking the signal first would do the best for you, I think.
It's so true, Pradesh, and everything I'm sharing is what we do. It's what we do for our partners, for our clients. And when we present, after we've done our workshops, and we present what we're going to be doing for them, and we say, hey, the first 8 or 9 campaigns, they're purely signal focused. They're literally purely signal focused. Once we start getting some reply, higher reply rates, and actually not to bore people in the technicality, but when you think of it, when you've got new domains and new mailboxes that you're doing specifically for outreach, when you take the signal approach, you are increasing the probability that that your reply rate and your positive reply rate is going to go up. That is going to signal to your email service provider that this is a genuine sender, and that is actually going to create a much better quality sending reputation for the long term. That means you go to much even higher chances of landing in the primary inbox. So when you do maybe move down the campaign list to more evergreen, or you find your message market resonance that operates to a lot wider audience, you are actually optimizing and setting yourself up for success versus you buy some domains, mailboxes, you get everything set up, and I'm going to blast this to 50,000 people. Sorry, your mailboxes are going to get burnt, your copy is going to get burnt, and you're going to lose credibility and trust. So having this sort of process here, I think, is going to help hopefully a lot of people.
Wow. Yeah.
Great. Let's see. So I am going to show you a easy way of how to do all of this all in one. We talked around the multi-tool tax and everything, but Saleshandy, as they always do, have come up with something incredible. Very excited to show a live demo of it, and hopefully at least point you in the right direction of where things are and how to think about everything that's been built out. And then obviously would love for people to go and experiment and try it after this webinar as well. So now that you are seeing the new Lead Finder 2.0 from Saleshandy, it was really a really big change in terms of just the number of filters, and it's so great to see how advanced the Lead Finder is. So Lead Finder, ladies and gentlemen, on the left hand side here, and you can click Lead Finder here. And then what's new in terms of in addition to all the amazing filters, is you've also now got access to company data. So you can see companies. There's over 40 million companies, and knowing Saleshandy, there's only going to be more companies that are going to be added. And then from those companies, there's over 850 million contacts that are available inside the platform. You'll see as soon as you come here at Saleshandy, I've made it very, very easy for you to just ask a question, and Saleshandy will actually do the filtering, etc. I'm actually a big believer of actually just working through the filters yourself. I think, especially when you're new to the tool, just get a feel for what's available. Again, and Richard, asking, answering your question there. So, a lot of this will also depend on, what the specific offer is. But let's say you are a HubSpot consultant, or you're a firm that's helping optimize HubSpot, and you are specifically looking at, VP of sales, you want to target, and maybe you've got an offer specifically, or your specialism is AI companies, and with everything else you're reading here, I would be thinking, okay, what are the sort of filters I want to be using in Saleshandy to be able to filter and find those companies. So let's look at, first of all, what are we looking for? We're looking at because we're looking at companies, which is where I would start. I'm clicking companies here, and we are looking for, now with AI companies, right? There's the best way in my personal experience is to actually go to lookalike. Now, the beauty of lookalike is you can take any company that you would deem, in this case, we're looking at AI companies. So, and you'll see it here, actually, you'll see OpenAI, but you can literally put any company that you think would fit. So I don't know, if you're looking at EV, you could put Tesla. If you're looking at fast food, you could put McDonald's. You're hopefully getting the idea. Like you can also look to see and find based on specific industry, but the best way is actually, if you use lookalike, you can, and then click search, you're going to get, let's say you're now seeing over 72,000 companies that are now in a similar line to OpenAI. And actually Saleshandy's algorithm, everything in the back end, is really accurate. It's been tested a lot, and I've seen it and gone through it, and you can see like all the different companies that are coming up now, and there's over 70,000 companies. So that number one in terms of as AI, we've resolved that fairly quickly. So definitely look at the lookalike piece. Let's see what it says. Okay, so now let's say this offer was HubSpot. So we're going to say, is the company B2B? Is what the company does? Is it in the B2B space or the B2C? Because you may only want to work with B2B. So very simply, again, what Saleshandy have done, you literally just click yes here, click search. Now that's brought us down from whatever 72 to now 43. So again, the beauty of this, if you remember that very first slide, or the slide where I said, hey, your ICP, if we just gone off AI companies, VP of sales and location or size, sorry, we would potentially be looking at 70,000 companies. We've just knocked off 30,000 just by taking on one of the filters. Do you see? Hopefully you'll start to see where this sort of qualification and signal base starts to come in, right? So is this B2B? Great. Then we're saying technologies. So again, beautifully, what sales have you done? What you can do is you can type in this case, we're looking at HubSpot, but you can type in, and it is a bit of an experiment, right? You've just got to put in the softwares that either your product or a service or offer can support with or integrates well with, and then you literally put that in HubSpot. Going to click search, and see now we're down to 4.5 thousand companies that are using, in this case, that are using HubSpot. Now there are other, as you saw when I typed in HubSpot, there may be others that come up, but just again for time and as an example, when you probably have more time to click all the HubSpots and see if that increases, but we're just using this example as HubSpot companies here. So again, now we're starting to really build this out specifically. We're looking at employee counts. Employee count here. The beautiful here is, you can do this based on employee, just general account here. So let's just go 11 to 50. But if you want to do that based on employee count by designation or employee count by department, that's all very, very helpful there as well. But let's do 11 to 50 there. So now we're looking at 1.2K. You can really start to see how this is all being built out. Let me just that's fine. Then we are looking by active. So then then this is really, really helpful as well, right? Now, let's say you are looking for companies at a specific hirer. I mean, I'm going to try this. Let's see if SDR is going to work. Yeah. Okay. So we're seeing that this means there are actively these 10 companies that are fitting all of this, and they're actively hiring an SDR. Now, going back to what I said earlier, right? Hear me out. Personalize your list. Your message will write itself. Hi, Kevin. Notice that you're currently hiring for SDRs at company name. Just, you see how it's written. Otherwise, imagine if you'd put that list out, then you're running it in through some other tool to enrich and try and find companies are doing. You've just saved yourself so much time and created so much more accuracy doing what we're seeing here. So your active job openings specifically for that. And then we're looking at, say, okay, then if we're looking at revenue, there might be a specific revenue number, or there may be some specific funding round, or when they're, or whatever their last funding round was as well. So if we look at, let's say, I mean, again, I'm just going to, let's say if we go for series, going back to timing, as we spoke about, let's say 30, 60, 90. Let me just do 90 days just to see, because I want to give it a bit of an option. Okay, so there's nothing there. Let's see if anything happens here. Okay, now bear in mind, as we go through this, right, as we are naturally, as you start to put more and more filters and all those sort of things in place, there is a likelihood that you're going to get very, very, very lower numbers, but that is fine. That's why I said to you before, move away from counting I'm getting one meeting per 50,000 emails, 100 emails. It's actually I'm getting one meeting per per 50 leads. It starts to become a very, very different basis. say, what's the ideal signal score to avoid getting bounced? So I don't know if I understand that question. Ideal signal score. Pradesh, any ideas on that?
I think, Rashida, can you just frame it like, do you mean like how many signals or variables you want to use in a single email template in order to not getting bounced? Because a bounce much has to relate with deliverability.
Yeah.
Do you mean relevance by anything like how many signal variables you want to use? Let's say, for example. So that would be better. Can you come up with like better examples so we can answer it in much more detail? Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that, Pradesh. But I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, the whole topic of bounced is completely, separate and different. But on this note, right, like knowing that you're going after very specific companies and coming back to the next point where, once you've identified people, and then being able to then, clarify, be able to push them into the people list. Now I can start to see all of these people that are actually going to be potentially relevant, or they're going to be part of those 10 companies that we have found. And then from here, if I'm looking for whichever one, so if it's, let's say, VP sales, let's see what comes up there. See if that does anything. Okay, not there. Let's see if I put in, let's try sales. Okay, so we're now starting to, and then if we maybe go down to management level, let's see if we can go director, C-level, head, maybe vice president, let's see. Okay, so now we are starting to, we're starting to build a list of 6 people that are actually going to fit every single aspect that we are really using to find people that are going to be so much more specific to our message. So imagine now where you are, and don't get me wrong, this does take longer, right? I completely get that, and that's a good thing. That's quality. That's where you're going to stand out to 99% of the other sales teams that are just rushing through and trying to put messaging, etc. out. The beauty of being able to do this at such a specific level on the company list and all the way to the people list, but hopefully, and that's why today I didn't want to come in with a pre-prepared list. I wanted to show you, like, you saw some of the things I clicked, it said 0, so I go back and say, fine, okay, maybe that's too specific. I'll try something else. And that's the beauty, and that's what I really appreciate, how Saleshandy have made it easy, that I'm actually able to find people. Oh, and the final piece that I just wanted to also say to you is that they've even given you a decision maker. So if the theory behind this is, I actually want to contact people that are decision maker, and hence why I've said VP of sales, I could, for example, do sales department and then say decision maker, yes. And that's actually brought in 9 people that I may have missed in the previous filter. So Saleshandy made it really, really, really easy. And this is why I said, rather than just being reliant on the AI piece, on that AI chat, if you can actually become familiar with the filters, it's so much more exciting, so much more it's so much more interesting in terms of what's possible. And then once you have got these people, assuming you're happy with it, and you're agreeing with these are the people, very easily you can obviously get their email addresses. You can obviously do all of this in bulk as well. And then once you've done it, again, do you remember how I said before, the different tools? This is all within Saleshandy. I have found people. I can find their emails. That's going to be verified emails. Saleshandy only provides you verified emails. And then from here, I can then push them into my Saleshandy sequence. So where we were looking at all those different tools, like Apollo, I think, is sitting at about 200, 300 million contacts. This has over 800 million. So you don't, multiple databases you don't need to worry about anymore. Saleshandy's got that covered. It's the filters like nothing else. You can verify, you can enrich, and then you can push all into the Saleshandy sequence all-in-one tool is the new Lead Finder 2.0, and that's how I use it, and that's how I would recommend that you experiment and use it as well.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin. Just to give more clarity to Rishita on our previous question, I think Rishita, you might have used some another platform where they might be giving you some signal accuracy kind of stuff, like how strong the signals are, right? If I am able to understand you, and in Saleshandy, what's happening? The signals that we are giving it now, they are actually relevant and they are mostly accurate. So we are not showing up the signals whom we feel don't confident about, right? So you don't have to juxtapose between the confidence level of the signals. So if you can share like what platform did you use before, so that would be pretty relevant. But I got your point, like there might be some calculations around the confidence score of the signals, right? But in sales Andy, the signal that you see, like for example active job openings or any kind of fundraising or any other stuff, those are actually confidence scores, and we avoid showing you any risky or any redundant one. So we don't collectively give you a score or the accuracy about that, but you can sure use them. And for the email verification, you always get the valid leads. Uh, it's done in real time, so it's add on as a cherry on the cake, right? Yeah. If I was able to answer a question, then please let me know. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Kevin, for the demo. And okay, you are using ZoomInfo. Okay, I got your perspective. So as I said, like, so the scores that we are the signals that we throw, those are more, they are pretty much updated in real time. Like, we do not do it periodically. We just go in the check in real time, like if it's there or not. Like for example, if I can just show you something on my screen, just a moment. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, Kevin, just let me show my screen.
Go
So,
just stop my screen. You carry on, please. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So I can just share you my Saleshandy screen. Okay. Let me know if it's visible.
Yes.
Okay. So let's say I just go in company and I just go and search, Saleshandy here. So yeah. And here, let's say I want to go and search for, you know, um, maybe the hiring. Um, wait, maybe I want to see active job openings. Okay, so you can just go here and check for. Just a moment. Let me just find it. Okay.
I think you just went past active job openings there,
Yeah,
hiring.
opening counts. Yeah, let's see. For example, all job opening counts. So there are some active job. Yeah, see, and maybe I can just use this to show you as a demo. So you see, currently it's showing 23 job openings, right? So if I can just go and check like how confident this is. So I'm just gonna share you another tab of the careers, right, where this job openings are posted. So uh, if you can see another tab.
Yeah. Icky.
Yeah. Okay, Ikigai. Okay, so you can just see here, if you just go and check it out on the number of openings that we have. So, so if you just count them, just a moment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. Okay, and if I just share my tab again here, so you can see like it's 23, right? 23. So this is pretty accurate. Like the signal scores that we give, they are pretty much confident because we do it in real time. So this is just a small demo about what the signal scores and how they work in Sales Handy. But I hope I was able to give you a good answer about this, and so you don't have to worry about your accuracy or anything. So you can just directly use the signals in your outreach, and it's gonna help you out. Yeah. Yeah, Kevin, you can move on with your screen now. Yeah. Thanks
Amazing.
for
Thank you. No, very helpful. Thank you. Cool. We're nearly at the end again. Want to be very respectful of everyone's time and want to have a bit of time for Q&A. But what I would like to really leave with all of you today is, before you buy any database, being able to ask these questions, and whichever decision you make, obviously I'm going to be biased towards Saleshandy. I think it's incredible what they've built, and it only will continue to get better. You want to ask, how much of your database is filtered by buying signals? If you're just seeing lots of title and just the very high level info, whereas as we saw, you saw how much, and I had to do it fairly quickly because of timing today, but you could see how much filters there were available. They all play a part of that signal based outbound. So you want to really be asking yourself that, are you seeing it? Are you paying for verification separately, or is it built in? That's really, really, really important to bear in mind. And how good is verification, and can it be done? Because you don't want to be sending, you don't want to be sending out. It's Saleshandy, right? The verification is built in, right? So you're gonna get real time verified automatically. It's no extra cost, no extra step. It's all within the lead finder. So that's why, again, highly recommend to check out Saleshandy in that sense. And another addition to it. When we tested, or when I personally tested Saleshandy's verification, and the way we test this basically is we take the list that say Saleshandy and say Apollo would say, we then put it into a third-party verification tool. The accuracy, pretty much like 98, 99% with Saleshandy, saying that all of the verification that they're saying are verified leads basically gets confirmed by a third-party tool. But the same list that I've done with an Apollo ZoomInfo in the past, it's been like very, very questionable. Like, I've had one instance about 72%, I think, actually not validated. So assure you based on what I've seen and regularly tested, that actually it is verified, which is really, really helpful. Number 3, you need to ask yourself, what happens to unused credits at the end of the month? Because sometimes campaigns change, things happen, etc. And most of the tools, from what I've seen and know, is that if you don't use your credits, then they literally go away. With Lead Finder, and again, Pratish, if I'm saying this wrong, please correct me, I believe that that 50% of unused credits roll over. So let's say you have 4,000 credits and you only use 2,000, then 1,000 of that 2,000 left over will be added to the 4,000 in your next month. So as far as I'm concerned, you're getting insane value for money, because you get that 50% rollover. I'm saying that right, Pratish?
Yeah, that's technically correct. So the unused credits get rolled over in your next billing cycle. So that's how it works. So you never get, you can always leverage this thing. So this is one of the things that you should always ask before buying any database. So yeah, Kevin, thanks for that. That's
cool.
great.
No, great. I just wanted to make sure I was saying that right, because I remember when I first heard it, I thought, oh, wow, that sounds maybe a bit too good to be true, but it is good. It's great to know that you built that in. So I think everyone should be, really, really, really happy with that. Number 4, how many tools touch a lead between search and send? We've talked about this 3-4 times. I'm not going to go over too much, but you saw with outside of Saleshandy, or example of Saleshandy, how many tools we're using, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. With Saleshandy, it's all in one. So that's going to save you a lot of time, actually the cost benefit that comes with it as well. And then the last question of what's your real cost per meeting, including every tool. And this is such an important question. People don't ask. People look at it as like, think, oh, Apollo's this much and this, and then actually when you actually look at your bank and the problem with the bank statement as well is that they all come out at different dates. You don't really think about it, but when you actually put it all together, you're like, you're gonna be paying hundreds, $500 for the same thing. Whereas I know the credits for getting emails and enrichments, etc., they're also like so much cheaper than say Apollo. Everything is so much more cost effective, but putting cost to one side, think about the time. People forget about the time, and what is your real cost per meeting, including every tool, should not just be a dollar amount. It should also be the time. And again, what we've seen personally is when with something like Saleshandy, with something all in one, you save plenty and plenty of time. So please always ask these questions for yourselves, and that will hopefully stop you making the mistake I had, as I said, that started this whole conversation around the 100K confession and the cost.
It was a great session, Kevin. I think the idea from using some volume-based outreach to signal-led outbound. So that actually changes everything in 2026, because a lot more with databases that I've seen coming up in the market. They always are on the most generic filters, and I've seen people spending tons of money. Like the outbound budget mainly goes on finding good data, and I think people should get adjust because we are in the outbound, and how difficult it is to close a lead like end to end from prospecting to getting your first dollar in your bank account. So you always we should always value the data and the efforts going to that, and I believe this helps a lot. So this is why we rebuilt entire thing from prospecting point of view in Sales Handy, because we already had lead finder 1.0, and in this we came up with the company tab, we came up with the signals, and we made sure like we don't come half baked. So this thing look-alike filter, mostly a technographic data, firmographic, active job openings. It's already there. So if you guys are using some another platform, do check it out. Do check it out, and do see like how your reply rates are and everything. And you have any questions with Kevin, do reach him out in the community. Maybe in the LinkedIn, he is already there. He's always there. And you can just email me. You can throw out our questions, and also please do share about like what we can come up with in the next sessions, so we can create much more relevant content to you. And thank you very much. We'll be meeting soon with Kevin again with a new session, new webinar. So I think let's call it a day. And thank you everyone for joining. And thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much.